Hello, everyone. This is the BSE Sofia earnings call for the third quarter of 2016. My name is Ivo Stankov, and I shall briefly present to you a short market overview and the report of the exchange for the third quarter of 2016. And afterwards, Mr. Ivan Takev, the CEO of the stock exchange, shall present to you the progress of our ongoing projects and our plans for the future. I would like to ask you if you have any questions during the presentation. We've put a slide number on each slide, and from the chat room, pressing on the chat button, you will see another option, question and answers. You may ask your questions during the presentation, and after we finish the presentation, we will address the questions one after the other. We shall read them out loud and so on. First of all, I guess every one of you is familiar to the market, but we will make a short market overview. The market capitalization of BSC Sofia reached 8.61 billion BGN at the end of the reported quarter, which was a 6.8% growth compared to the 8.06 billion BGN at the end of the second quarter. The market capitalization of all markets and segments increased. The largest increase was on standard equity segment by 8%, followed by 7.22 growth of the premium equity segment capitalization and an increase in the capitalization of the real estate investment trust capitalization on the alternative market by nearly 7%. The values of all indices of BSE Sofia increased during the third quarter. You can see a chart of Sofix performance. The biggest percentage increase was in the value of the main index Sofix, which grew by nearly 11%, followed by BGBX 40 increasing by almost 8%. BGTR 30 grew by 7%, and BG rate had a 1% increase. The turnover on the regulated market of financial instruments in the third quarter of 2016 reached 80 million BGN. And for comparison, in the second quarter, it amounted to 67 million BGN, which is an increase of 19%. The increase was due to growth in the turnover of equities, excluding rates, by 44%, and the turnover in rates by 17%. Bonds and compensatory instruments turnover decreased, but in absolute figures, the drop was not so significant, and the bigger equity turnover set the market movement. The number of issues of listed instruments on the markets organized by BSE Sofia increased by 3 in the third quarter. The number of equity issues listed on the main BSE market increased by 3. The number of bonds also increased by 3, while the number of equity issues on the alternative base market decreased by 2, and the real estate investment trust issues decreased by 1. We're moving to the financial standing of BSE Sofia. First of all, the revenue. With regard to sales revenue of the exchange, there was a decrease by 7.36% where compared to the corresponding period of 2015, mainly due to a decrease in trading fees by 13%, membership fees also by 13%, information services by 5%, and issues parameters change fees by 36%. Finance income grew from 152,000 BGN to 160,000 BGN as a result of an increase in interest from investments held to maturity. And the other income items declined, but the decrease was insignificant in absolute value. We should note something that you will mention in our third quarter report. On September 29, 2016, a contract was signed for the sale of real estate between the Central Depository and Bulgarian Stock Exchange. The property includes the fourth floor of our building and 2 parking lots. The deal has a total value of 110,000 BGN, and it's concluded according to a decision of the General Meeting of Shareholders of the exchange held earlier this year. As of September 30th, 2016, the aforementioned real estate, having an acquisition cost of 652,000 BGN, balance value of 504,000 BGN, and accrued amortization of 148,000 BGN, was written off from the building owned by the exchange, and the revenue realized from the sale um, amounts to 306,000 BGN and is reflected in the other operating revenue item. And the overall decrease in revenue is due to lower operation revenues and mainly lower trading fees. You can see the structure of the revenues compared with the same period of 2015. And besides the aforementioned sale, which is reflected in other operating revenue, you will see that the structure is quite stable, remains quite stable over time. Moving on to costs, the main cost items increased by 2.34% where compared to the September the 30th, 2015. Hired services expenses grew to a one-off expense, which led to a rise in consulting and other services by 30,000 BGN or 25%, while personnel costs shrunk by 4.51%. And you can see that the change in the other cost items is insignificant. On the next slide, we will see a comparison between the cost structure of the previous and the current period. And you can see that the structure of costs also remains quite stable over time. The financial result of the stock exchange, the total operating revenue for the period ending September 30th, 2016, grew by 234,000 BGN or by 17%. The cost increased by 38,000 BGN or 2.34%. And at the end of the reporting third quarter, the net financial result of BSE Sofia is negative to the amount of 59,000, which is mainly due to lower operation revenues and increased hire services, partly compensated by the one-off increase in other operating income that we just discussed and lower personnel costs. The asset structure of the stock exchange as at the end of the third quarter. The total asset at the end of this quarter were 86,000 BGN or 0.82% higher than the value at the end of 2015. The significant change in property, plant, and equipment item is due to the aforementioned sale of a real estate. As of September 30th, the company has no term deposits with banks, while cash and cash equivalents grow by 115%. Other receivables and prepaid expenses reflects the short-term part of the receivables on a session contract on a deposit with a bank placed under special supervision. We have to note that the installments and interest thereon due at the end of 2015 and the 30th of June 2016 are still not paid. And as you can see from this table, there were no other major changes in the company's assets. A liability structure. The retained losses at the end of 2015 amounting to 333,000 BGN was covered by means of reserve, which decreased accordingly. The decision was adopted at the already mentioned general meeting of shareholders of the exchange, and the retained losses at the end of the third quarter of 2016 amount to 77,000 BGN and is mainly due to operational loss from the current period, while also reflecting the revenue from the aforementioned sale of a real estate. The current liabilities grew by nearly 19% due to an increase in payables to suppliers and other creditors by over 23%. The increase is a result of growth of the prepaid fees for information services, registration and maintenance of issues on both main and alternative markets for 2016, which are paid according to the BSE-Sofia rules and then are deferred for the whole year. The shareholder structure of the stock exchange. Those of you who follow our reports should know that the shareholder structure remains stable over time. The number of foreign shareholders decreases slightly, but in the last quarter, we see a minor increase in the number of foreign investors, which we really hope is a good sign. The BSC Sofia own shares, you can see a comparison in the dynamics of BSC own shares price and the main SOFIX index. This is for the whole year of 2016 until the end of September. The trade was active and the market capitalization increased from 14.08 million BGN to 15.54 million BGN. The average price for the quarter was 2.303 BGN per share. The price at the end of the quarter increased by 0.22 BGN per share, or 10.28%, from BGN 214 closing price on June 30th to BGN 2.36 per share on September the 30th. The minimum price per share was 2 BGN and the maximum price per share was 2.45 BGN per share. You can now see a comparison between the price change of BSE Sofia and SOFIX in the third quarter only. A total of 133,991 shares were transferred in 172 trades. The total turnover in the third quarter was 309,000 BGN, which in comparison to the 37,000 shares transferred in 61 trades and a total turnover of 79,000 BGN during the second quarter, was an increase in turnover by 291%, increase in volume by 257%, and decrease in the number of trades by 182%. And in the third quarter, shares were traded in 42 out of 62 trading sessions. This is a quick summary of the data I just quoted, if you wish to see the numbers. And I shall now let Ivan Takev, the CEO of the stock exchange, present to you the development of our ongoing projects and the future plans of the exchange. Ivan?
Thank you, Ivo. Hello, everyone. Before I start with the projects that we are currently up to, just let me remind you that you could ask questions by clicking on the chat button. Just please give us an indication that you want to ask something, even if you are unsure what your final questions will look like. We need some time in order to get prepared and to receive an indication from you. Just let me start with each of the projects that we are currently working on. I'll try to quickly elaborate on each one of them and update you on our progress. Let me start with the so-called BSE International Market. As previously announced, Bulgarian Stock Exchange is working together with its trading platform provider and a foreign broker on a market that will allow domestic trading in up to 75 foreign instruments. These will be shares, treasuries, exchange-traded funds, commodities, and structured products and exchange-traded notes that are listed either in the European Union or anywhere else in the world, depending on the interest of our customers. After looking in the details of that project, we decided to set it up as a two-stage project. First, we will be able to offer direct trading in EU domiciled instruments on our regulated market. This will be organized, a regulated market that will be a natural extension of our license, and the international market will basically supplement trading in domestic equities and bonds that we are currently offering for our customers. I want to stress on the fact that we will be able to offer trading in the core instruments. This will be any surrogates like certificates that are based on the equities themselves, or the depository receipts, as we know them in our past, when in 2003, I believe, we offered trading in 4 German equities as depository receipts. But unlike that time, this time we'll be able to offer trading in the core equities. As a second step, we'll be able to offer trading in non-EU instruments on an MTF that we will apply for approval in Q1 2017. Currently, we don't have a license to organize MTF, but once we are able to start the first stage of our project, we will apply for an MTF. Filing for regulatory approval for our regulated market will happen in mid-November. That's more or less has been coordinated with the Financial Supervision Commission. The admission of each of the instruments will happen without an explicit issuer consent that is basically permissible according to Article 18.9 of our Markets and Financial Instruments Act, and that is a direct transposition of one of the articles that are part of MiFID I. It is completely possible. None of the issuers basically will have to provide a consent or apply for listing on that market, but following the business model of the MTFs, we'll be able to onboard all of these instruments on our regulated market. Together with the admission, we provide to register a liquidity provider for each one of them. That means that each of the instruments will come with its own liquidity. And as you will see on the next slide, each of the instruments will be quoted in very tight spreads following the best execution policy of the market maker. In case for some reason our customers lose interest in trading a particular instrument, or in case the instrument is being delisted from its primary market, from its reference market, we will provide an advance notice for that instrument, and it will be discontinued in due time. All of the instruments will be traded using our typical trading model, that is continuous trading with opening and closing auction. All of the instruments will be quoted in euro, even the American equities, if we list such equities on our MTF in the second phase. The trading hours will correspond to the specific instrument. The ability of our customers to trade in those instruments, will take that into account as well. And the operational hours of the trading platform, it is not open 24 hours a day, so we need to take into account its operational hours as well. As I said previously, each instrument will be quoted by an electronic market maker. We are currently in discussion with the market maker itself, so more or less we'll be able to offer more details once we finish and clarify all of the open questions. That market maker comes with its best execution policy. That means that the market maker has defined the minimum quote size for each of the instrument, depending on its reference market, and the maximum deviation from the reference market as well, depending on whether that's an equity or a bond or a structured product. The Bulgarian Stock Exchange will specify a minimum order size for that instrument that is more or less required, that we need to be profitable for each trade that is executed on Bulgarian Stock Exchange. We need to cover our costs, and for obvious reasons, trading in just a few shares executed for just a few shares are no longer to be profitable for neither the stock exchange, nor the investor, nor the market maker. That means that each order has to be on order size, otherwise it won't be accepted by the trading platform. As a natural extension of that requirement, each instrument will come with individualized trading parameters. That is the volatility interruptions depending on the nature of each instrument, and the trading hours as well. Upon listing an instrument, we will announce all of the specific parameters of that instrument with regards to trading settlement. And last but not least, this Bulgarian international market will be available to all of our existing exchange members at no additional fee. This slide is basically depicts the settlement that we are currently discussing with the market maker and Clearstream Luxembourg. That's the depository institution that will match all of the settlement instruction. What we have in mind here is very simple. The Central Securities Depository will utilize its account at Clearstream Luxembourg and will act as a settlement agent for all of the domestic members of the Bulgarian Stock Exchange. The market maker will provide quotes on our international market, while each of our members, of our domestic members, will send orders. These orders will be matched against the quotes of the market maker, and execution confirmations will be sent to the market maker and to each of the trading members, as well as to the Central Securities Depository. Once a day, a netted settlement for all of the instructions in terms of cash and security will be sent from the Central Securities Depository to Clearstream Luxembourg, and there a DVP settlement will be effected between the omnibus account of the CSD and the account of the liquidity provider. Of course, there are some open issues that we are currently discussing with the CSD, but we believe that in the very near future, all of them will more or less be clarified. Next slide, please. A few other details with regards to the BSE International Market. All of the instruments that originate from the European Union will basically follow the prescriptions of the transparency of the prospectus and the transparency directive. So each of the equities that will be admitted to trading on that market will follow the information disclosure of the European regulations. Bulgarian Stock Exchange, just like with the domestic issuers, will observe the quality of disclosure and will act accordingly. Namely, the BSE will be able to suspend trading in case of non-disclosure, but as long as what we aim at is just European blue chips and exchange trading funds, I don't believe this is going to be the case with any of the companies that will be listed on this market. And again, this applies only for instruments traded on the regulated market. When it comes to trading on multilateral trading facilities, the provisions are a lot different, and the disclosure requirements are also different. Information that is being disclosed by the companies tradable on the BSE International Market will be available by reference to all of our customers. That means that once you log in on our website and search for the ticker code of that specific instrument, you will land onto the page where the appropriate company disclosure will be provided by reference. That means that the stock exchange site won't accommodate all of the company disclosure by itself, but instead it will provide you with a link to the website where that disclosure is made available for the general audience on the territory of the European Union. The corporate actions will be handled exactly the same way as we currently handle our domestic Bulgarian instruments. That means that on the X date, we will all of the open orders in the order book will be revoked, and the reference price of that particular instrument will be adjusted accordingly. In addition, we will announce all of the X dates and for each corporate action before the action itself. All of the dividends, bonus shares, and all other entitlements that come from that particular investment in the instrument will be collected by the Central Securities Depository. So if a company distributes a dividend, that dividend will be collected by the CDAD and subsequently will be distributed for all of the company, for all of our members that have invested in that particular instrument. And because we are talking about trading in the core instruments and not any surrogates, that means that the shareholders that, the investors that purchase the equities will be able to vote at the general meeting by authorizing either the Central Securities Depository or directly. Moving on to the next project, this is our more or less a result of our intention to support SME financing in Bulgaria, and due to the upcoming changes in the European regulations, I think we will be a lot more successful than in the past. Bulgaria is well known for its long-standing capability to properly address the funding needs of the local SMEs. This is mostly due to the fact that our local regulations require a prospectus to be published for all offerings of more than 100,000 euro, or for offerings that target more than 150 persons. These offerings are considered public. That means that they require prospectus. Obviously, these thresholds are quite low, so any company that would want to pursue or has an urgent funding needs is left with the only option to go to its own bank. As I said, the prospectus regulation that is supposed to repeal the long-standing prospectus directive is expected to obtain an approval in the late 2016 or early 2017. The final open issues are exactly with regards to what the thresholds should look like, but I believe that it will reach to a compromise in the next few months. So once the prospectus regulation is approved, certain thresholds will be lifted from 100,000 euro to up to 1 million euro, and that will be an EU-wide threshold. That means that if a company wants to raise up to 1 million euro, no prospectus should be required. The prospectus directive also allows the domestic implementation of that regulation to raise the bar from 1 million euro to up to 10 million euro. In that case, no prospectus will be required of up to that amount, and that will basically allow us to set up an SME growth market. You know that the SME growth markets are part of the MiFID II framework, but certain provisions are detailed in the prospectus regulation as well. So in a nutshell, once that piece of regulation is approved, we will be able to consider both SME private market. That means that the companies that will issue instruments on that market will not be considered private, but still will be able to offer tradable instruments. The second market that will be considered is the so-called SME growth market. The companies, this is an MTF-like platform. This is not a regulated market, but the companies that will be admitted to that market will benefit from alleviated disclosure requirements and the so-called SME growth prospectus, which is a lot more flexible than the prospectuses as we know them today, and will allow for alleviated financing for SME companies. If a company has reached to the maturity that it will pursue listing on the regulated market, full disclosure requirements will apply for that company. So basically that means that no change is expected for the companies that are currently listed on our regulated market. All of those markets are normally supported by the so-called regulated advisors. That means that we are supposed to detail the requirements for those advisors. Normally, these are bridge houses or investment banks or law firms, but nevertheless, we will have to come up with a certain set of criteria in order to be able to license, in a sense, the authorized advisors that will support the companies that will be listed either on the private market or the SME growth market once MiFID II becomes effective. And last but not least, we'll also consider a crowdfunding option for the local startups. It is too early to decide what this will look like, whether it will be offered as a standalone project or in partnership with another operator, but this is something that we definitely have in the pipeline, at least for consideration. A few words about CE Link. 7 exchanges are currently part of the project, and we expect one more to file anytime soon. We are just clarifying a few open issues with them, and once we are done with that, I believe that exchange will file for admittance to the project as well. Belgrade Stock Exchange and Ljubljana Stock Exchange that have joined the project in June are expected to connect soon. They have completed their connection test, and in the next few days we will be able to reach to a compromise with regards to their go live date. I think that will happen by the end of the year. Currently, we have 16 interbroker agreements. As you know, these are a vital part of the CE Link platform. Without those interbroker agreements, no trading could take place. 7 of those interbroker agreements actually are signed by executing brokers from Bulgaria, and 6 of them are signed by originating brokers from Bulgaria. There is some overlapping between them, of course. 8 brokers from Bulgaria applied for SME grant financing, but so far we don't have any fixed compatible brokers yet. They are working on the modification of their order management systems, but none have completed successfully their connection test, so no fixed compatible brokers yet. BSE International Market will be available in CE Link once we launch it. That means that all of those instruments that will be offered as a part of the international project will become automatically tradable by foreign investors as well. And last but not least, at least when regards to CE Link, is that we agreed a financial news service with in partnership with CE News. That CE News is a local news agency, and it will be soon launched on CE Link's website. And a few words for each of our projects in addition to what we've currently detailed. The first is, let me start with the capital markets roadmap implementation measures. You know that in early days of October in Bulgaria, we signed the establishment of the so-called Capital Markets Development Board under the patronage of the Financial Supervision Commission. All of the key players with regards to the non-banking financial sector in Bulgaria joined that board, and it ultimately aims at more liquidity and more viability for the non-banking financial sector. The specific measures will be approved by the working group and by the board itself in the next 2 weeks, I believe. So we will be able to follow up soon on the implementation measures that are part of that roadmap. We've announced a roadshow in London at our previous earnings calls as one of the measures that we are currently working on. We had to postpone that roadshow in London for 2017, but I believe that the timing will be a lot better as we'll be able to offer more for potential investors in Europe. So once we are ready to proceed with that, we will announce it accordingly. A few words about the treasuries market that we're currently working on. We've, as you may have known, we filed our draft rulebook with the central bank and the finance ministry. We haven't received any feedback on that, but we will continue our discussions with them in the next couple of months. We are still quite on track with that project, as we are aiming to launch it at in Q3 of 2017. So we have plenty of time, but nevertheless, we will clarify all of the open issues that may potentially arise. And last but not least is our non-listed businesses research project. As previously announced, we are working on researching the financial statements and the publicly available information for non-listed businesses in order to get a good notion of the extent to which they will be willing to pursue listing on the stock exchange and obtaining financing through an IPO. So we are progressing with this one, researching the publicly available information, and once we spot a company that deserves further attention, we will research that company in detail, and search or ask the management of that company for a meeting where we can basically lay out our the options that the capital markets provide in terms of financing. So this is an ongoing project. This is the third iteration. We will be able to follow up on our progress on that. I believe in the first days of 2017. Basically, that was what we have in pipeline, along with the time frame that we have for each of our projects. If you have questions, please ask them now, or give us an indication that you want to ask questions. We'll wait for a couple of more minutes together with Ivo, but even if you don't have questions now, you can always get back to us with an email. That presentation will be also published on our LinkedIn channel. So if you want to revert to any part of it, just visit our LinkedIn channel afterwards.
Yes, thank you very much, Ivan. We are now waiting for your questions. You may ask them through the option for chat. When you press the chat button, there is another option for questions and answers. So if you have any questions regarding the information presented herein, or if you have any other questions regarding the stock exchange, you may ask me or Mr. Takev.
Well, obviously there will be no questions this time. Thanks everyone for your time, and hope to see you at our next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you from me too. There will be an announcement on our website about the date and time of the next earnings call. So make sure to follow the news on the website of the stock exchange. Thank you very much again. Have a great day.